Have you ever wondered who really runs the game of cricket? Because it's not just about what happens on the field. Behind the scenes, there's this huge power struggle playing out between the global governing body, the ICC, and India's cricket board, the BCCI. This is a story about money, about power, and honestly, a battle for the very future of the game itself.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this power dynamic, let's start with a really strange situation that just perfectly sets the stage: the 2025 ICC Champions Trophy. What happened here tells you pretty much everything you need to know about who's really calling the shots in world cricket.
Kind of a weird question, right? How can one tournament be in two different countries for just one team? But believe it or not, this was the exact situation that kicked off a huge debate about fairness, about special treatment, and ultimately about who's really in charge of the sport. I mean, just think about how wild this is for a second. The tournament was officially in Pakistan, but India played all its games in the UAE. And the other teams, well, they were just forced to fly back and forth between the two countries. This was totally unprecedented, and it immediately raised massive questions about the integrity of a world tournament and whether the ICC could even be considered an independent authority anymore. So how is a move like that even possible? To figure that out, well, you have to do what you always do in these situations, right? You gotta follow the money. $230 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. It's a staggering amount of money, but what's truly mind-blowing is what it actually represents. And get this isn't the BCCI's total income. Not even close. This is just their annual share from the ICC's central revenue pot. That single slice of the pie is bigger than what almost anyone else gets in total. It perfectly shows you the incredible financial power we're talking about here. And this chart, wow, it really puts it all into perspective. The BCCI's annual share from the ICC doesn't just dwarf what other major nations like England or Australia get, it makes them look tiny. We're not even in the same ballpark here. We're in a completely different universe. So where does all this financial muscle come from? Well, it's no accident. It's powered by a colossal broadcast market, with nearly 90% of the sport's global viewers coming from the Indian subcontinent. And of course, there's the Indian Premier League, the IPL. With its billion-pound broadcast deals, it completely transformed cricket into a faster, fan-focused, and incredibly profitable spectacle. So what happens when one organization has that much financial power? Well, it starts to bend the rules and the structure of the sport itself. This is where we run into what you might call a major governance gap. Okay, before we dive any deeper, let's just quickly get on the same page about what good governance is even supposed to mean for a big sports body. In short, it's about being transparent, being accountable for your decisions, and actually, following the rules. Right, but that ideal picture doesn't always match reality. As the brilliant journalist Sharda Ugra described the BCCI's historical operations, it was a far cry from transparent. For a long time, just getting your hands on a copy of its constitution was almost impossible. That suggests a system that was really operating behind closed doors. And look, this is not a new problem, not by a long shot. Way back in 2012, a huge independent review called the Wolf Report sent a crystal clear warning to the ICC. It said the council's main job was to act for the entire global game, not just its 10 most powerful members. It even specifically called out the risk of undue influence and conflicts of interest, and many of those issues are still around today. So you've got this immense financial power on one side, and a pretty serious governance gap on the other. But what does this actually mean for cricket around the world? What are the real consequences? Well, if you look at the ICC's own mission, it's supposed to be the guardian of the global game. It's responsible for growing the sport for all 105 of its member nations, from the established powerhouses all the way down to the smallest emerging countries. But the reality on the ground? Well, that can look very, very different. Security concerns can start to feel like geopolitical tools. Rules can appear to be applied inconsistently. And smaller cricketing nations often have to fight just to get opportunities to play against top teams outside of the big tournaments. It all creates what many see as a deeply unequal playing field. And this is where it gets really stark. Just look at how the rules are applied. Decades ago, South Africa was rightly suspended from cricket because of its government's apartheid policies. But today, Afghanistan is still a member, even after the Taliban banned women from playing sports, which is a direct violation of the ICC's own rules. It raises these deeply uncomfortable questions about double standards.
So all of this, it brings us right back to the central question at the heart of this entire dynamic. In this very tense relationship between the BCCI and the ICC, who really needs whom more?
The truth is, it's complicated. It's this incredibly fragile codependence. The ICC absolutely needs the BCCI because India delivers the massive audience and revenue that funds the entire global game. But the BCCI also needs the ICC. The ICC provides the global stage, the World Cups, and that international structure that gives the sport its legitimacy. And that's something no single country's board can just create on its own. And so that leaves us with one final critical question that is going to define the future of the sport. It challenges the very idea of what international cricket is. Can a game truly be global if its governance isn't?